The John Lebang Show has been known to make people laugh, sing, think, scream, throw things in rage, and generally lose their minds. Listener discretion is advised.
Worldwide and out to the greater universe, you're listening to the John Lebang Show.
I don't think there's ever been a time in history where the malpractice media and the two political parties have prepared us more for a rigged election. In fact, there's going to be so many people unhappy with the results of the election and are going to be in protest of whatever happens because how the malpractice media and the political parties have set this all up. Welcome to the show, by the way. Thank you for tuning in. And me, who has participated in every election since I was 18 years old, I am sitting here going, whatever result happens, it's going to be contested, and we're not going to get the results on election night because, well, COVID has interrupted everything, and we've got the mail-in votes, and we've got all the other factors determining that this election in particular is going to be contested, and we may never, shouldn't say never, but we may take weeks and months to actually get the results of this election because COVID is scaring people out of their right to go vote in person, and now we have mail-in votes and other things associated with that. And the polls, of course, are very much the same as they were in the 2016 election, where they were heavily favoring Hillary over the Trumpster. And now that he's in office, the entire Democrat Party, if they lose ground, if they don't get the presidency, can claim that it was rigged against them. On the other hand, the president is kind of echoing the same thing, that if he doesn't win, he's going to contest it. And this will be able to go on for weeks, taking us right through December if we're not careful. And the worst thing about it is these two parties who are offered to us as the only two choices for presidency, everyone else who might be running, and notice we haven't heard a whole lot about third-party candidates this time around, have we? Normally, there are half a dozen third-party candidates that we've seen ads for somewhere, that we've heard people talk about. But that's on the quiet side this time around. We're hearing that maybe no debates, although that would be an interesting. I'd like to see their reasoning for that, because if they're going to give me COVID, I'm not going to believe it. COVID is the reason everything went from 2 weeks to flatten the curve to now we have to wear masks and probably face shields one day, and everybody's got to get a vaccine delivered by the military. We have two choices, Republican, Democrat. The jellyfish Republicans and the hate-mongering Democrats, the destructive Democrats. That's what choice we're offering. And I don't like either one of them. I don't like either choice at this point. I would like to clear out the entire government. Federal, state, local, just kick everybody out and go back to the Constitution and start from there and bring people in that are new. And that aren't so damn corrupt. But it's never going to happen because the voting class of people only see the two parties, and they don't see. You can't vote. You get the diehard Republicans. You can't sit this one out because the Democrats are going to win it all. And it's the same way with the Democrats. You can't sit it out. Trump's going to win. Oh no! But really, we have both parties that make me go, oh no! What are we doing here? How is it that these two parties are the only choices we have? You have one or the other. That's it. They only offer you two choices, folks. And any of the other choices, they're always swept under the rug. They're always pushed to the side. They're always crushed if they gain any momentum. Because as we spoke about for many, many years, you need two wings to fly the bird. And the eagle of America has a left wing that is pretty much the dominant wing when it comes to the political agendas that are put into motion. The right wing doesn't have enough balls to pull the left wing back. It's funny too because the donkey pretty much represents the Democrats. I can see that. A bunch of jackasses. But I think the Republicans need to change their mascot because they are definitely not a majestic elephant. They're more like a jellyfish. They should be the jellyfish party. So I'm suggesting to the Republicans, change your mascot. You're dishonoring the elephant by making that your little mascot there. But I wanted to sit this one out because I didn't see any point into acknowledging this system. Now, I'm not talking about the U.S. Constitution. They have ran that sucker over. It doesn't matter who it is, from top to bottom. Presidency, the state governors, everybody is just trampled all over the Constitution. I'd like to go back to that, but this current crop of selections that we have in 2020, I thought we were the most advanced, enlightened country in the world, and if these are what the political parties are offering, you're offering Donald Trump, who is definitely not a perfect man, and his tweeting is a bit over the top. He has his flaws, as a lot of people have pointed out. His promises, Obamacare, the wall, tax reductions for the us little people, all that has been flushed out the door. None of that has taken place in his first term. So he's a perfect politician. He's fell right in. Promised a bunch of stuff and didn't deliver a whole lot except executive orders. And don't give me the Democrats stopped them. Democrats stop them. You, who voted him in, allowed the Democrats to take back the House the next election. So, who stopped Trump from getting an agenda done? Well, it was his own party. Because remember, he had the Obamacare repeal on the ticket there. And when it came time, they couldn't get it done. Right? They're going to blame John McCain. They're all like that, folks. They're all turncoats. To be a politician means you're a failure in life, as far as I'm concerned at this point. At least a career one. And the only avenue you had to go was politics. Because there are no standards. As long as you have a D or an R, your people will support you. When you go wrong, they won't criticize you for it. They'll turn a blind eye. Oh yeah. I mean, they gave Biden a little criticism for having Kamala Harris as the vice presidential pick. But who else did you want, folks? It was already a tainted selection in Biden. That man isn't altogether anymore, and he's the creepy guy. But apparently, the left-wingers out there, the people who vote for the Democrat Party, do not care that they put creeps in charge. They'll complain when the Republicans put a creep into the presidency. But when the Democrats have a creep, it's okay. They turn a blind eye to. And it's the same situation on the right. All during Obama, we heard the entire right complaining, whining, and rightfully so, that Obama was using executive fiat to get things done because he couldn't accomplish things through the Congress like it's supposed to be done. Trump gets in office and he goes on an executive order spree for 3.5, almost 4 years now. Don't tell me he didn't have his own party, because he did, and they lost because they got nothing done. And the voters for the Republican Party don't necessarily stick by their guys as much as like the Democrats. The Democrats, if you're a D, you got people behind you, the party's behind you, and that's how things go. Sometimes those R's give up on, because they got them linguini spines, right? We've talked about that many times. In fact, they might not have any spine over there in the Republican Party. So when we're talking about the bird and flying with the two wings, it always pulls left, because the left wing has far more support, and the muscles are stronger because they always work together. While the right wing's kind of flapping, randomly. It flaps sometimes, and other times it wants to glide. While the left is always flapping that way, so it's always pulling. While this one's gliding, and then sometimes it pulls back, and it kind of, but it never goes back, and then it flies back left. And that's what happened in these past 3.5 years. What difference would it have made to have Hillary in office? We'd be spending like we are right now. It might have happened a little sooner, but we'd still be almost $6 trillion has been spent in 2020 already. And we're not done. We've already set records for spending. Under a president who said, we're never going to be a socialist country, boom, we've become socialist. And you Republicans need to realize that. And you people on the left need to chill out. Things that you wanted are going your way. You should love this president. Maybe they do in secret, and all this vitriol in the public is just theater for the media to project on people. That way the whole country feels like it's ripping itself apart, and we have incidences here, like here in Michigan, where supposed right-wing groups are out protesting, and here comes the left-wing group counter-protesting, and a big fight and scuffle happens. When was it okay to protest each other? I don't understand that. We shouldn't be nowhere in the First Amendment or anywhere in the Constitution does it say we can protest each other. Protest your government for your grievances. Peaceably protest. People don't even know what that is because, as we see in Chicago and many other cities across the nation, and now Seattle's kicking back up again, folks. As we told you it would, it's never going to go away. They don't know how to peaceably protest, which makes it not a First Amendment right, what they're doing. We'll be right back, folks.
Hey, Uncle Shady, where are they going? Hey, you, get back here. The John Lebang Show will be right back. Are you in need of commercial or residential window cleaning? Do you need your office cleaned? Maybe custodial work? How about some gutter cleaning? If you do, then call Pane in the Glass. For a beautiful shine that's crystal clear, call Pane and the Glass. You can find them on Facebook at Pane and the Glass. You're listening to the John Lebang Show.
It's better than an iReader convention.
We get the first plea of guilty in the Russia Gate through Kleinsmith. He's a FBI ex-lawyer. But that's like low-hanging fruit. And I'm willing to bet that we're not going to see Comey or any of the top dogs that were behind the Russia Gate face any legal repercussions for their criminality. Because the deep state protects itself, and under Donald Trump, even though he has drained the swamp so we could see all the corruption, now that it is exposed, is just going full blown in the direction. They don't care. Since they've been exposed, they continue to travel down the course and said, "The hell with you." Look at how the governors have been acting. And I was thinking about that. A lot of these governors would really benefit if the United States broke up, because they could then become a little king or a little queen, and they wouldn't have to have elections. If the United States broke up, that would mean the Constitution was over. So we'd have all these independent countries with their governors who are now the leaders of a country versus having the president be the leader of the country. You see what I'm saying? So why wouldn't governors like Gretchen Whitmer and whatever his name is out there in California, and why wouldn't they want the country to break up at this point so they could declare themselves the leader of this country called whatever, New York or California, Michigan, whatever. Even the Republican governors wouldn't mind that, I don't think. They would go from leading just a state in a larger union to now the head of a country. And maybe that's why everything is turning out the way it's supposed to. Remember, folks, these conditions were created way back when. They let the virus in so that all these other things that have happened since the virus has entered the country all these things have taken place to put us in this position where the country is ripping itself apart. Citizens are fighting amongst themselves, even though it's the politicians who have made all the so-called mistakes. We want to give them the benefit of the doubt that they might actually be behind this implementation of all these things, because they know, these governors that is, they know that if the country breaks up, they have just inherited rulership over a country. And out of all the states out there, there's not very many. The South Dakota seems to be one that is projecting a little bit of freedom. But none of them are saying, come here and join us to protect your freedoms. because the rest of the country isn't. Rest of the country, for the most part, are following along with the so-called CDC and WHO guidelines on a boogie-woogie virus. And this is good. We just posted on the Daily Brew for Friday an interesting story where they're now openly developing a coronavirus to infect people with. Because, let's be honest, folks, most of us think this current coronavirus is some kind of biologically created device. They mutated some natural coronavirus into this coronavirus. It was in a lab, it got out, so on and so forth, and now we're here. So now, because more people have caught on that it came from a lab that was loosely connected to Dr. Fauci, and then the event 201 with the Bill Gates, and you notice who's all the front men in all this. So when we tally this all up, folks, it seems pretty clear that the current strain of coronavirus that is, well, inflicting the earth right now was probably created or mutated in a lab, let loose in China, spread throughout the world. The curve, boy, that curve really did well, that 2-week curve. Remember when they told us? These people who have gotten this thing wrong the entire time are telling you to do things. Why should you believe them? Joe Biden says there should be a mandatory mask policy across the country. These people who he's taking advice from are the same people that screwed this up from the beginning. Government has screwed this up from the very beginning. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt that they didn't do this on purpose. And they have just blown it from the very beginning. We're taking their recommendations on how to protect ourselves. And we have people who are giving people strange looks for not wearing masks and doing things when they go out in public, accosting them, as I've personally experienced myself. And I was wearing a mask. It was just not a mask that the person approved of. We're doing all these things that the government is recommending to us, yet they're the ones that screwed this up from the very beginning. What kind of logic is that, America? Why should we trust any of these politicians, any of these medical people? They've screwed it up from the very beginning, and the numbers are screwy. And we continue to take their recommendations? Why? Why should we give up our freedom for something that they couldn't get right in the very first place? I don't care who you blame. You can blame all the Democrats or all the Republicans. You can blame the Donald. You can blame Fauci, Bricks, whoever. You can blame the Chinese. I don't care. But one thing is certain. They screwed this up. If they didn't allow this stuff to happen on purpose. Which to me is looking more apparent that all this stuff was let loose on purpose so they could implement all these steps that has taken us, 5-6 months into this, and now we're being told that it's probably going to be a second lockdown at some time. Tell you, the people in Michigan probably aren't going to stand for that anymore. But and maybe some of the other states won't either. But the idea that we're listening to the recommendations of any governor. I mean, like here in Michigan, with the rules we have, this is the Governor Whitlis Gretchen, who took old people. She couldn't even think of it herself. She was just following other states who took old people who had COVID, put them in old folks' homes that didn't have COVID. And guess what? Those people that were in those poor old folks' homes or convalescent centers or whatever you want to call them, retirement communities, whatever you want to call them, that's not offensive to you. And infected and people died because of that decision. We're going to listen to her about wearing masks? Are you crazy? Now, if you're wearing a mask because you're protecting yourself and you feel that way, not because some government official told you to, then fine, do it. I'm not telling you don't wear a mask. I'm telling you the people who have screwed this up from the very beginning are the ones dictating to us how to protect ourselves? No, I don't think so. And they're running for office, and we're supposed to be able to pick and choose between all those morons? I don't think so. Why are we going to do that? As people, we, as the American people, the people of the state of Michigan, where I live in, and the people of the other states out there, why do we trust these two parties? Especially the Democrats, the spineless elephants out there. They're a hell of a lot more easily controlled because they have no spine. But the dirty Democrats, with them in office, look at all the dictates that have been put down on everybody with them in charge. And it's great. The president did the right thing in letting the states handle their business. But he also gave them cover to do whatever they wanted to do and whatever they did. And here we're gonna be forced into choosing between the representatives of these two parties? We as a people should cancel the election and tell them we don't want what you're offering. And and have them all removed. And once they're all removed, then we can go forth with picking some people. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's equally insane to continue to choose between these two parties who have offered us nothing but lies and mistakes if they're not actually implementing something under our nose, which is actually my belief. This is not by accident as far as I'm concerned, but regardless of the fact, they need to be removed, whether it's purposely being done to us or it's completely buffoonery, utter ignorance, utter stupidity in how they're running this so-called crisis, this manufactured crisis that all the conditions were put in place for all this to happen. The shortages, the number of people being sick, the screwing up of how many people might or might not be infected. Everything from top to bottom, back to forth, side to side has been handled in the most blunderous way, if that's even a word. You couldn't screw this up this bad on accident, is the way I'm looking at it. It had to be purposely done, and you can hear the thunder in the background. And that's apropos because we're facing a storm, us as the American people. And I see us, we're protesting each other and fighting amongst ourselves instead of going after the ones, removing the ones who have put this all down on us. But unfortunately, the ones that are fighting amongst themselves, dividing us even more, are the same ones that want to divide because they play along with the damn two-party system. Anyways, folks, we're halfway done. be back in just a moment, so stay tuned.
Don't move a muscle.
The John LeBang Show will be right back.
With lots of fun and excitement. Yes!
Jim's Tuxedo and Menswear is your one-stop shop for tuxedos and men's quality suits. We go the extra mile to make sure your tux or suit is the perfect fit. Our huge selection is second to none in the state.
Looking good.
Outstanding customer service.
And we're located on Dix Toledo in Southgate. Call today, 734-285-3253.
Jim's Tuxedo and Menswear is the place to be.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming to Jim's Tuxedos and Menswear.
You know I had to come to the best.
That's right.
Hey, man, it's at the bottom of the hour, man. Do you know where your kids are, man?
If you want to contact the John LeBang Show, feel free to send an email to jlebang@live.com. And if you're on Twitter, look him up at John LeBang. And don't forget to go to his Facebook page at The John LeBang Show. Banger. Now here's John.
Until we make political parties illegal in this country, we're going to have this problem. Because a political party lives and breathes on dividing us on certain issues. And we can't continue to support a system that is not only anti-constitutional, it's not non-constitutional, it's anti-constitutional. They use it for their advantage to get across their stuff, but God forbid their opponents can use those same things. No. And that's the problem with political parties. They automatically divide us and break us in, make some of us their opponents. They're enemies. We're supposed to be Americans, right? United we stand. United in self-governance. Each individual self-governs, and we come together to make a great country then. Well, we already know the political parties do not want people who self-govern. They want to govern us. And the more left you go, you get so much governance that it becomes dictatorial. And we've almost reached the step of Nazi Germany. It's incredible that the United States has been divided so far that we're there. You see, Nazi Germany ended up being Nazi Germany because there was a divide between the communist factions and the socialist factions. There were no freedom lovers in Nazi Germany. And the National Socialist won that little political battle. And then it gave rise to, well, history. Here in the United States, we had offered freedom at one point. Of course, there's a question that even exists any longer. And only people who remove themselves from the system that has erased the benefits of the Constitution. They ignore the benefits of the Constitution. They ignore the structure in which this country was supposed to be. Because if you have a whole bunch of people who can self-govern, who know the difference between what's right and what's wrong, who have standards, and that's something we don't have anymore as a country. There are no standards because in a diverse culture, like they've been trying to create, you can't have standards because certain people, well, that would be against their culture. And if rioting is part of a culture, if theft and criminality is part of a culture, in a diverse country with diversity as the first most important thing, not freedom, not self-governance. When diversity is the most important thing, you can't say anything about what a culture says about their culture. We do it. This is what we do. You can't tell us we can't do it. And that means there's no standards for the country at all. So certain groups can do certain things to other groups even, and there can't be repercussions for it because that's part of their culture. You see, the United States used to be a melting pot. Everyone would come here to become American. They may bring their food with them and some cultural things, but they left a lot of that at home, and they became an American. We don't have that anymore. People don't come here to become American. They come here to get the benefits of the country and still want to bring the culture with them. The culture they were escaping from, which doesn't make any sense to me. But even that, in our own communities, we have a cultural problem. Because we don't accept standards. Because that would be discrimination. To some people, having standards would be considered discrimination. I don't see it that way. I think if we all self-govern, and what does that mean? Maybe people don't understand what self-governance means. It's pretty simple. You mind your own business. That means you tend to all your own matters, you take care of yourself, and you leave others alone unless they're stealing the freedom from someone else. Then, as a freedom-loving individual, you must come to the aid of somebody whose freedom has been robbed. Except when they're just willingly giving up their freedom. That's the choice they're making. You can't step into that one because that is also freedom. Giving up your freedom. But once you've given up that freedom, you can't get it back. You've surrendered it. It's gone. Unless you fight for it back, but once you've surrendered it willingly, why would you fight for your freedom back? So you have to fight for your freedom from the very beginning. And it's not taught that way. I see young people, and I hear them, what they discuss, and I'm like, you don't know what freedom is, do you? You were never taught freedom. You were taught a form of collectivism. We can be united as sovereign individuals in the cause of freedom, in the cause of liberty and justice. But when you're a Democrat, you're not a sovereign individual. You're a person who votes the party line, which means whatever the party determines, you get. So your vote as a Democrat doesn't mean as much as a vote as a sovereign individual who's not trapped in voting for Democrats only or trapped in voting for Republicans. In fact, the sovereign individual will say, I can't vote for those two parties because neither of those two parties are promoting self-governance, freedom, liberty. They're promoting allegiance, and whatever the powers that be that run those parties, and more times than not, it's not your voice controlling that, unless you've worked your way up into a position where you have some influence. But for the most part, if you're a Republican, all you can do is vote for the people they offer you. And hopefully, they do things that are beneficial to your individual position. But they're not. Practically every politician doesn't care about you. They care about getting reelected. Even Donald Trump. And you can hear the storm. It's just raining like crazy. And that's fine. We need rain here. But if you hear that in the background, there's nothing I can do about it. That's Mother Nature doing her thing. But even if you're a solid Republican or a solid Democrat, you don't control the direction of that party. So what do? If there's things that candidates are offering you that you don't agree with, but you still vote for them. We need to change as a people. We get the government we deserve, ladies and gentlemen, because we accept that these people are liars. We even encourage them to be liars. Well, there's got to be a time where we don't need other people to lead us. If you can't lead yourself, it's really an indictment on you. If you can't know the difference between right and wrong, that breaking in a business that has nothing to do with your grievances and stealing whatever contents they offer there, their merchandise, if you think that's okay, then you're going to continue vote for the people that allow that stuff to happen. But you're not self-governing. Because self-governance says you can't take from somebody else. You can't even ask for the government to take something from someone else. You can't tell the government, I need someone to take care of me. I can't pay for this or my 20 children or whatever. I need assistance from the government. A self-governing person wouldn't do that. See, you're talking about a person who can't govern themselves. So they make someone else go do it for them. And to take things from others so they can live. You see, criminal behavior, and that's taxes, is a form of theft. Not taxes from, buying something. I understand that because you got to pay for roads and other things. But when you have money or you earn money and somebody's got to get their little fingers, and that's extortion. Because what happens if we don't pay that income tax? What happens if we don't pay it? Well, as we said in the last show, they're going to be coming for it. Right? They'll be coming for those taxes. And it's amazing, shocking, and a whole lot of other words that we as a country have made it to this point. A country that was based on self-determination, self-governance, the rule of law, constitutional government, and we have allowed it to degenerate, to disintegrate, to regress into this malaise of malarkey and shenanigans that the people we put in power and they continue to fail in protecting your freedoms. Well, that's on us, folks. That's on us. Break time. We'll be right back.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
because the John LeBang Show will be right back.
After this, that's guaranteed. Yes. Absolute Skin and Body Care, located in Livonia, Michigan. If you're in need of laser hair removal, skin care, laser tattoo removal, or laser hair regrowth, call Absolute Skin and Body Care. They're located at 37625 Ann Arbor Road, Suite 105 in Livonia, Michigan. Their phone number is 248-533-0448. Absolute Skin and Body Care. Give them a call. You're listening to the John LeBang Show. It's huge. Now I got to tweet about it. Well, it's interesting how the mainstream media has been putting out this little bit of information about G. Maxwell. They took her off suicide watch. She was asked to be off suicide watch. Very much the same as Epstein. Take him off suicide watch. Well, they took her off suicide watch, but they know we're not going to believe if she suicides herself this time. So now the mainstream media is preparing us for something else. The lawyers are saying she can't be away from people 21 hours a day. She's got to have some personal time and get with people and be out with the public, right? Or at least the public that in the prison population. But they're telling us also that she'll be at risk because other inmates may take retribution on her. Always like that. They say criminals are going to take out another criminal because of whatever the other criminal did. So if Maxwell happens to end up deceased from a beating, we know that the malpractice media has already warned us that was going to happen. They're telling us, well, she's going to have to be in the prison population so she can have more time. But when she's out there, she's going to be in danger because other prisoners are going to want to beat her up, kill her. You believe that, folks? You see, I think they're telling us that something like that's going to happen. They've already set the groundwork for it, so when it does happen, or if it does happen, well, then they can say, see, she should have been kept on suicide watch. It's just, it's insane. They expect us to believe all this. Have you also noticed that the timeline is very similar to Epstein in almost every regard? When they were arrested, when they went on suicide watch, when they were pulled off suicide watch. And we're getting awfully close to the truth, which means I think Miss Maxwell's life is in graver danger than ever. Either that, or they, as some have suggested with Epstein, they faked his death and disappeared them so that they could live their life without any worries. They just relocated him, changed their name. It's no longer Jeffrey Epstein, it's Epstein Jeffries. And Maxwell, well, she's gonna change her sex and be Maxwell as a first name, or that'll be a first name. I don't know. I'm having a little fun with this because it's obvious what's taking place here. We're not going to get to the bottom of this, or at least I don't think we're going to get to the bottom of some worldwide giant pedophilia organization. The powers that be, the people that are connected, hell, Bill Clinton is connected. People in the royal family are connected. World leaders from all over are connected to Epstein. Whatever he was doing on Sex Island, and all these people that visited it, to keep that from having the people just revolt like they're doing in Libya right now, or Lebanon, I'm sorry, they brought out the gallows. Yeah, so we got, let's see, what have we found out today? We found out the U.S. is developing a coronavirus so they can infect people with it. After we already have been infected with a coronavirus
that looks like, and we're pretty much assured that it was created in a lab somewhere, or at least mutated in a lab. We found out that the federal government is spending more than it ever has under the president, almost $6 trillion already this year. We're about 2.5, maybe almost 3 trillion past our our spending by this time normally. We find out that the Democrats are trying to tie money to the post office, which is supposed to be able to run on its own. I had a little debate with a post office, a postal worker who comes into one of the locations I frequent, and they're bought into it. And then I hit them up with, because Trump's trying to stop the voting and stuff, and I'm like, you guys can't run on your own. I thought that the post office was supposed to be able to pay for themselves. And then there were more excuses. Well, the board and blah, blah. So, okay. There's always excuses one way, and there's blame the other way. It's great. We learned this week that the Wall Streeters are doing pretty well, while the rest of the working class isn't doing so well. They had a huge tax cut just before all this stuff happened, so they're doing okay. So if you're involved in Wall Street, you're pretty happy. Also this week we had the U.S. seize Iranian fuel cargo ships. They did that. Iran did some stuff on their own. And this was brought up. Why aren't businesses required to have biodisposable units for all these masks and all the rubber gloves and everything that supposedly COVID is contaminating, and we've got to take all these extreme measures that take away our freedom? Why aren't there bio containers required in every building? Unless it's malarkey. Of course, now that that's been brought up, chances are they're going to go, we better put that into place. People are going to ask too many questions. And again, I have to ask, why do we listen to these people when from the very beginning they have failed us on this? They have failed us on COVID from the very beginning. And I'm not saying just Trump. I'm saying the governors, the medical profession, the pharmaceutical companies, China, everybody in some kind of authoritative position has failed us. Purposely or accidentally, that's for you to decide, folks. I lean toward the former, because you can't fail on something this epically accidentally. Not when you have so many supposed experts and people who are supposed to be able to handle this stuff running the show, doing it all. They screwed this up from the very beginning. Yet we're taking advice from them. We're listening to them. We're supposed to follow what they say are the correct things to do in all this. I say that's a bunch of malarkey. They failed us, whether purposely or not being accidentally, from the very beginning. And we, as a nation, should no longer accept anything they say. Anything. Take your own precautions if you want. I'm fine with that. That is what a self-governing individual, a responsible person would do. If they think there's a danger, you wear a mask or whatever other precautions, but you don't do it because the government told you to do it. Because the government has failed you. Failed you. Not the Constitution. They've trampled all over that sucker. But the people who are behind all these little, these offices and these organizations that supposedly have experts telling us how we should go about our daily business. Well, they failed us on every level. And when they tell you to wear a mask, say no. I don't think I should trust you when you say wear a mask. When they say get a vaccine, you should tell them no. Since you failed from the very frickin' beginning, I don't think I'm going to get a vaccine because you are a failure at your job. Or are you corrupt? Let us know. Because it's either one or the other. I would love to talk to these politicians myself. No one's going to give me an audience, but I would like to sit down and say, okay, now we're here. When you guys told us 2 weeks, we'd knock the curve down and we'd be just great after all this. So did you fail or did you do this all on purpose? Are you a willing participant in the dictatorial acts that have taken away freedoms and have ruined businesses, or was it sheer incompetence? It's one or the other, because it wasn't brilliant. You didn't save us from anything. I would like to hear what these experts and these politicians, I would like to hear their answer to that. Because someone in the gosh dang malpractice media needs to start getting on them, and they're not gonna. Because they're all working in concert together. They all spew the same BS. So they all support each other. But I want to know. And this is a question you should ask yourself. Did they fail because they're incompetent? Or did they fail because there was an agenda and they were supposed to? Which would mean they weren't failing. They were accomplishing something. That's the big question here, folks. Because none of these people have done anything right, and we shouldn't take any more recommendations from any of these people. We should remove them all from office in November. We should cancel the election. As the American people, cancel the election. We don't want any of you scumbags. We're not going to vote. All of you must step down. All of you. But I know that's a pipe dream. Because there are too many people out there that think if they don't vote, the other guy is going to win. And we can't have the other guy, even though what difference does it make? To quote Hillary Clinton, what difference does it make? Look at how bad the country, the shape of the country is under the political class that is currently in place right now. From your local city government straight up into the federal government. They have failed us. They have spent us into oblivion. And in the end, the only thing that has happened is the loss of our freedoms, the loss of our right to self-determination. Because if you can't decide if you want to wear a mask or not, because the government says you have to, well, you've lost that right. Anyways, folks, I want to thank you all for tuning in to this broadcast. Hope you gotten something out of it. Maybe get a little fired up these days. I know I'm quite fired up. Don't forget, if you want to find out more about what we do here on the John Lebang Show and some of the other things that we are engaged in, you can go to our website, www.jlebang.com. And until the vibrations of my vocal cords reach your ears again, I'm John Lebang, thanking you all for tuning in and giving me your time. Until next time, I'm signing out. from the Banger Studios.
T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff.